Be curious, be excited, and be allowed to fail. I want to talk a little bit about the value of curiosity and why that is probably the most important skill I can claim that I have. I had a repair person come to my house yesterday. I had 2 appliances that were broken. The refrigerator wouldn't turn on, and the dryer wouldn't heat. The repair person came by, took a look at my refrigerator, said, "Oh, you replaced the power cord. I'm not touching this because liability." Okay, fine. Then he took a look at the dryer, did some diagnostics, and then said the thermostat needs to be replaced and it's gonna cost $330. The dryer itself probably only cost $400 and it was about 10 years old, so maybe it was time for a new dryer. At this point, and what gave me the freedom to be a little curious, is I was expecting right now that both of these items were junk. I couldn't fail because the dryer was considered done and the refrigerator, it was broken. At this point, I said, you know what, let me do some research. What does it take to replace the thermostat? A few YouTube videos later, I found out there's actually a reset button on the thermostat. I went in and I followed a 5-minute tutorial. Unscrewed the back of the dryer, pressed the reset button on the thermostat, turned the dryer on, and it worked. Anyone with a screwdriver could have made this repair. Refrigerator was dead. I don't have an electrical engineering background, but my curiosity has led me to actually learn how electronics work. And I do happen to have a soldering gun. I have a multimeter. So I took my multimeter and I went downstairs and I just started touching things on the board. And I found out that there was a fuse that had blown. I was touching the 2 things and no connectivity. If you know electronics, you're like, oh, well, that's clearly what's wrong. So I bought a new fuse for $5. I unsoldered the old one, I put in the new fuse, and now I have a working refrigerator. Took me about an hour to unplug everything, took me an hour to take everything out, solder everything together. There is a little bit of skill in some of this, but having the curiosity to say, it's already broken, I might as well try and repair it. None of this was dangerous. The soldering part of it wasn't dangerous. You can go get yourself a cheap soldering gun for $20 if you want. At the end of the day, I saved myself hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, on repairs, on other things around the house, just because I'm curious enough to say, I'm willing to look up a YouTube video, I'm willing to try, and I'm willing to learn. And I'm not saying YouTube replaces someone's decades of knowledge doing repair. There's some things that are way beyond capabilities, but a lot of things are actually simpler than you think. And a lot of knowledge is compounding. So you learn a little thing, like again, I learned the basic electronics, and that allowed me to repair a refrigerator or electronics board. Having curiosity, even at an older age, I didn't learn electronics until I was like 35. Not that that's old, but that's also not young. Like it's not like I learned this when I was 10. Don't get in your own way and tell yourself you can't do something. Be curious, be excited, and be allowed to fail. So I hope that helps, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.